Hello, students, and welcome to another lecture for Lit 110. This lecture is mostly going to be about how do we actually read and record some notes on literature. It's mentioned in the introduction, and I want to give you an example of what I do. Part of what we're doing is called close reading. It's also a slow reading. This is not a speed reading course, and you're not supposed to speed read it. You're supposed to read it, to sort of enjoy it. But as you go along, or as you read it a second time preferably, do so with a highlighter and a pen in hand. And you can see that I am kind of a medium note taker. I see some lit people who do far more than this. I like two or three different colors of highlighter. I'm not OCD, and I'm not really the type of person who color coordinates things. But it does help me to differentiate some of my notes that I'm taking. I ask a lot of questions. So one such question I have for Vampires in the Lemon Grove, is this. Clyde mentions that he's eating everything. When he was young and he was trying to figure things out, young being 130, that he ate everything and he drank everything, and he and McGreeb went all over the place trying to figure this out, and then they found the lemons. But they do have a point in there where they definitely say that the blood does nothing, and he comes to understand that the blood does nothing. If this is the case, then why does he do the actions that he does at the end? I won't put a spoiler in here for you. Why does he do that? And that's going to get at a much bigger bit of symbolism that you may or may not come across. Now, our journal write and discussion boards largely focus on symbolism and character narrator. So Clyde is the narrator. Also, what if Clyde wasn't the narrator? Would McGreeb narrate this differently, or some other character? And these are all things that as you read, right, ask a lot of questions. Think about the symbolism. Why lemons, right? Why are they dating in cemeteries? Like all sorts of these things. And what does that mean? Especially if you think about usually the bigger pieces of literature out there. So in a lot of ways, one of the classic ways to evaluate anything is to compare it to the Bible. Bible's one of the primary literatures of Western civilization. And so therefore, a lot of Western Civ authors, and all of these are, most of these are Western Civ authors, usually have some sort of a tie back to some sort of religious thing. If it's an allegory, if it's some imagery, whatever it is. This one is pretty interesting if you get looking at that. Nevertheless, all things to think about as you close read. Who is your narrator? Are they reliable? Are they semi-reliable? Are they unreliable? If a different person narrated it, how might they tell the story? What might be different? Or who is the author telling it to? The first time I got introduced to an unreliable narrator, it was in an Edgar Allan Poe story. I can't recall it off the top of my head. But my instructor said, all good observations. He said, okay, now it's a telltale heart. Who is the narrator speaking to? I thought he was speaking to me. And he says, but what if he's not? What if he's speaking to the police? What if he's speaking to a psychiatrist in a psychiatric ward? How does that change the story? Well, if it's a psychiatric ward, then he might be, schizophrenic. It may have never happened. Right? Or he might be imagining things. So think about who your author or who your narrator is talking to sometimes, and that will help out as well. And then, why do you deem it reliable, unreliable, etc. So interesting things to think of, and I hope this helps you to take some notes and think about the literature for Unit 1, Vampires in the Lemon Grove, and I'll see you guys on the discussion boards.